The 2010s were coming to an end. Everything in the world was about to or in the process of changing. From fashion, technology, the president, and even the state of music. Little did anyone know that there would be a wave of young women that would come in, literally guns a-blazing, that would change the state of multiple industries, even within present day. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here today to discuss the iconic and somewhat infamous trap girl era.
Love yours. No such thing. No such thing as a life that's better than yours. No such thing as a life that's better.
Hi, I'm Tassie and welcome back to my channel. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome home. And if you're a new subscriber, make yourself at home by clicking that subscribe button. Today we'll be taking a look at a very specific era known as the trap girl era and how this era changed hip hop, fashion, makeup, the media, and ultimately why it doesn't seem to be as prominent anymore. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, please stay tuned. And with that being said, let's get straight into the video. So let's just start off with what trap even is to begin with, because in this era, it's a little bit more complex. So trap music is a subgenre of rap music. So this style of rap basically is about drug dealing. The lifestyle, the mechanics that go into it, everything. It often references guns, gang affiliations, and the creation and distribution of drugs. And this is what is essentially referred to as trapping. Keep that in mind. So this was a really popular genre in the early 2000s with artists like T.I., Jeezy, and Gucci Mane, just to name a few. And these three artists essentially popularized the genre itself. Now this subgenre did stay very prominent and very relevant throughout the years, but as time would go on, we would definitely see changes in how it was being maneuvered. So as we migrate from the early 2000s to the 2010s, you will start to notice that the beats are a little bit different. Originally, trap beats were very rough, very ragged, very heavy. But as we approached the 2010s, it started to get a little bit more melodic. You started to hear a lot of pianos, synthesizers, and essentially certain little samples would get speed up or tweaked up a little bit. So now the sound is a little bit more playful instead of rough. And secondly, like I said, trap music originally was about trapping. By the time that we get to the 2010s, there's still a little remnants of it, but for the most part, trap music is now about the use of the drugs themselves and the effects that people would feel while taking them. And lastly, what made this new version of the subgenre so different was the rappers themselves and how they presented themselves aesthetically. So back in the day, with the lifestyle of being a drug dealer essentially being the front man for what this music represented and what made it so hype, back in the day what rappers used to do was just wear basic plain white t-shirts, some jeans, maybe some jean shorts, and the most expensive things that would be on their body was probably their shoes and their chains that were known for being really gaudy. These were supposed to be symbols of wealth, essentially. Like, you keep it minimal, but you do these few little things. So that was basically supposed to let people know that you were successful at trapping, basically. Honestly, there's a whole history in that type of aesthetic. Maybe I'll do a video about it later. I don't know, but there's probably one on YouTube by now at this point. So yeah, back then they used to keep it simple. But now that we're approaching the 2010s, the rappers are more out there. They are more flamboyant. They are more gaudy. They are loudly and proudly wearing all types of designer brands with the monograms and the logos all over the clothes. And not only were they wearing the designer brands, but the designs that would be on certain brands were always so loud and bold. You would see a lot of patterns, you would see neon colors, you would see multicolors, and a lot of the styles even lean towards punk rock, emo, and other alternative styles. So essentially, this is the trap era that we are going to be referencing, not the one from the early 2000s, but the one from the 2010s. And I'm going to refer to the 2010s version of trap as new trap. That way we're all on the same page. But yeah, to give you a clear understanding, that is basically what trap music is. So some of the artists that were really popular during the new trap era were people like Young Thug, Playboi Carti, Trippie Redd, Ski Mask the Slump God, and Juice WRLD. Now before y'all get on me, I know there's like 1,000 more people that I could have mentioned. I cannot get at everybody because this isn't even about them. But if your favorite rapper wasn't mentioned, my bad. Okay, my bad, but they're all in there. Now, the reason why this subgenre was able to successfully, I guess you could say, rebrand is because of the popularity of the app and website called SoundCloud. So SoundCloud is a platform where users can upload any audio files as they please. So this could be anything from voice memos, voice recordings, people that want to promote their voice acting skills and potentially get a job. But the main popular purpose of SoundCloud was underground artists being able to share their independent music. So a lot of the rappers that I just previously mentioned, they were aspiring rappers during the popularity of SoundCloud. And this is essentially how they were able to get their footing. So since SoundCloud allowed users to upload their audios whenever they felt like it, this gave these rappers the upper hand because they were able to release whole mixtapes whenever they felt like it. A lot of them would release 3 mixtapes each year. And this is part of the reason why during this time it seemed like there was always a new artist just coming up overnight, because by the time that they had that #1 hit single that was everywhere, they already had a significant discography, and by that point they had a whole fan base that knew all the words to all their songs. So it was really easy for this new wave of trap to catch on as opposed to what it was in the early 2000s. So yeah, that was essentially the new wave of trap music, but what about the trap girls? So realistically, female rappers never stopped developing since the popularity of rap music. In the 90s and early 2000s, there were actually a lot of female rappers to choose from. But the problem was that a lot of them did not have longevity. And this was due to multiple factors. So for one, the rap industry was always heavily male dominated. Misogyny had a lot to do with the success of a lot of female rappers. So rap music itself as a concept was really birthed from people telling their stories about living really rough and ragged lifestyles, and basically the popularity of what they call hustle culture, essentially trying to get yourself out of that situation or keeping yourself alive during all of the chaos. So in the brains of many, that is essentially a male thing, to go through all these trials and tribulations and be able to hustle your way out of it or hustle your way through success. That was something that a man was supposed to do. Men are the ones that are typically supposed to be built tough to handle things physically and mentally. But keep in mind, men weren't the only people that were growing up in these rough and ragged environments. There were plenty of women that grew up in the projects and in these environments as well. However, it just wasn't seen as very ladylike to broadcast that information or to glorify it like how the men were. So when a woman decided that she wanted to be a part of the rap scene, she had to go 10 times harder and stand 10 toes behind every single decision she made. But not only that, women were usually the topic of a lot of these songs as well because they were essentially objectified. So it was almost taboo for them to have a story to tell because they were essentially seen as the equivalent of obtaining a luxury car. Why would a luxury car have a story to tell? They're the objective, you know? And this also ties into sexual identities and how sexuality was displayed for female rappers. If you were going to be a female rapper in the industry, you had to be sexy and appealing to men. But if you were deemed too aggressive or too tomboyish or a little bit too rough and keeping up with the men a little bit too much, they would automatically label you a lesbian. And after that label, you practically didn't have much of a chance after that. But plot twist, even if you did follow the rules and made yourself sexually appealing to men, you couldn't be too sexual with it because now you're just a hoe. You're not a rapper. Another reason longevity for female rappers was so difficult was also because of the beefs that they would have between each other as well. So like I said, if you wanted to be a female rapper, you had to go 10 times hard and stand behind every single decision you have ever made and not let anybody stray you off your path. So because of this, there were a lot of female rappers that were very cutthroat, not even just in the music, but just in the way that they carried themselves in general, because there was always somebody trying to take advantage of them. So listen, beefing is essentially normal in hip hop. Like in hip hop as a culture, that is essentially one of the driving forces behind the popularity of the genre. But due to the factors that I just mentioned, this caused a lot of female rappers to really be out for blood. So the rap scene for female rappers was basically like, there can only be one. And every girl wanted to be that exception. So it wouldn't just be diss songs. Sometimes it would carry over into real life and people would be physically harmed. And depending on the severity of some of these situations, a lot of these female rappers ended up having to do some time. Which means all mixtapes, albums, projects, they were on hold until further notice. Meanwhile, the men were pushing out projects with no problem. And lastly, another factor that female rappers would face would be rap music slowly becoming appealing to mainstream media. It took a while for us to get here. Majority of the music industry and the population as a whole did not really respect rap music, let alone hip-hop culture. Because originally, when rappers were sampling different songs, whether that be soul, R&B, or even pop music, people saw that as stealing. They didn't see that as creativity. And then when it came to the lyrics, it was raunchy, it was just too much for people to listen to. So people automatically assumed that rap music was only about violence and other very inappropriate topics. So it was hard for rap music to even become marketable in the first place. So just put all of this into perspective, okay? You're already counted out in your own space because you're female. You're expected to play this balancing act of criterias to follow, but now you have to deal with racism from the music industry on top of that. Yeah, everybody couldn't keep up. Everybody couldn't keep up. And this eventually would lead to a drought in female rappers for a while. But like I said, they never stopped developing, but sometimes they would appear and the next thing you know, you just never hear from them again. The only female rapper that seemed to be able to stand tall for such a long time is Nicki Minaj. But then there would come a time where even Nicki Minaj went on a hiatus, and after she dropped her project The Pink Print in 2014, we did not hear from her for a while. So here we were in a drought again when it came to female rappers, but not for long. So like I said, SoundCloud played a really big role in making the new wave of trap as popular as it was, because a lot of people were able to essentially become overnight sensations because there was no limit to what they could upload. A lot of other aspiring artists seen the success of other artists and decided that they were going to follow suit. One of those people being a rapper named Asian Doll. So Asian Doll had always played around with rap music, but she decided to take it seriously conveniently around the time that Nicki went on her hiatus. Her very first song was actually posted on YouTube, but she would make her debut on SoundCloud in 2015 with her song Boss Up. And this song really did put a stamp on what Asian Doll's sound was. It gave this classic dirty South sound with a beat that actually did sound like Chicago drill music, and her cadence was definitely on brand with the new wave of trap music that a lot of people were listening to. And within that following year, she would go on to post a video of her friend at the time, Cuban Doll, rapping to her remix to No Flockin'. And that single video seemed to skyrocket Asian Doll's career, and she was now recognized as one of the trap artists of the new wave. And the next thing you know, she was taking over the internet with her remixes and her mixtapes. A year after this, an artist that goes by the name Bally Baby would go on to upload her first song onto SoundCloud called Designer. This song had the typical sound of the new trap music down to a T. But what really made Bally Baby stand out was the way that she used to change and pitch up her voice to make her sound really girly and almost like Valley Girl-ish. And this was very different at the time, but also somewhat on brand. Because another thing about the new wave of trap music was that a lot of times people were playing around with the enunciation of words, pitching up their voices, using little clips and videos from like their favorite animes and cartoons. So it was very popular to change your voice and do all these emotions when you were rapping at this time. So she was very on brand, but she still had a very unique sound that a lot of people were not doing at that time. Now, some people did find it annoying. Not everybody liked it, but overall, she got really positive responses for it, and it made a lot of people love her music. Within that same same year, she would release her song Iggity, which was essentially a remix to the song Iggity by the group Thrax Gang, a rap group from the DMV. So not only would this song alone essentially put Bally Baby on the map and on the list of fellow trap girls, but it also got her in contact with a very popular DMV artist that we now know today as Rico Nasty. So Rico Nasty had actually been making music the longest out of everyone. Her first song uploaded to SoundCloud was actually a song called Time Consuming. Now, unfortunately, I can't tell you what it sounds like because a lot of her earliest work is now unavailable for whatever reason. But just based off of the comments alone, a lot of people have said that it sounds completely different than the Rico Nasty that we know today. So what made Rico Nasty eventually be able to stand out was the fact that she had been experimenting with her sound for a while. Nothing about her was typical. And I think that's what the people liked. So she already had a good standing in the DMV rap scene. But once she began working with Bally Baby and released her song Blocklist, this is when people started to see her as a trap artist, and she got probably the most popularity out of her whole entire rap career up until that point. Because similar to Bally Baby, she stayed pretty much on trend and on brand, but it was still so uniquely different. And then in came a rapper named Molly Brazy. So Molly Brazy actually started out with posting freestyles on her Instagram page for fun. A local Detroit rapper named Rocaine would go on to discover her, and eventually he would feature her on one of his songs titled Little Friend. So the people loved that Molly was capable of keeping up with Rocaine's flow while also being able to stand on her own 2 feet. Rocaine would then convince Molly to take rapping a little bit more seriously, and he would begin posting a lot of her music on SoundCloud. Molly would then go on to get managed by For Show magazine, which at the time was helping a lot of Detroit rappers build a platform. So with Molly being co-signed by Rocaine and having this management team behind her, what made Molly stand out from the rest of them was something that the other girls did not have: a rollout. She didn't just have to rely on SoundCloud or social media word of mouth. She had a legit team behind her that essentially did all of the heavy work, and all she had to do was go into the studio and say her lyrics. So the first song that she would put out is essentially a freestyle that would end up being the intro to her future mixtape, Molly World. And that one freestyle effortlessly got 1 million views. She began working with other local Detroit rappers, one of them being Cash Doll, and would eventually go on to work with Asian Doll, who was at the peak of her career at this time. And thus, the trap girl era was born. These 4 girls who weren't even old enough to drink yet stepped into a genre that was so heavily male dominated and left such a lasting impression that there are some people that see the trap girl era as a subgenre to a subgenre. And it didn't stop with them either. Eventually, we would get even more trap girls coming in and making a name for themselves. Everyone was different in their own right. Now, I want to be selective with my words, because I know that some of the girls still got lingering beef with each other, okay? And I'm fully aware, some of the people that I'm gonna mention were doing music way before the popularity of SoundCloud. I am just giving examples, okay? I'm not saying that so-and-so put you on and inspired you and this, that, and the third. Listen, this is supposed to be fun. Let's have fun, okay? Okay. So what I will say is that the presence of these 4 girls helped give attention to other young female rappers that were coming up at this time. And a lot of these girls also followed the trend of the trap era. So we ended up getting people like Stunna Girl, Bang 3, Queen Key, Noonie Blanco, Lil Kayla, Rocky B, Bad Baby, eventually Cuban Doll, and even Coyle Ray. She started off as a trap girl, low-key. So what exactly made a trap girl a trap girl? What was it that made these people take notice to begin with? What was it that made these girls in particular be able to take the attention of all these people? One of the first things people will tell you about if you ask them about the trap girl era was definitely the aesthetics. The trap girls had very distinctive looks. So similar to their male counterparts, they were very flashy, very gaudy, very flamboyant with their fashion. And again, some of it would borderline punk rock and emo styles and other alternative styles. But each girl had something special about them. None of them really ever looked similar. So one of the main characteristics that you would notice is definitely the bright colors. These girls were very girly despite the, rough lyrics that they would rap in their songs. So you were gonna see a lot of pink. You were gonna see a lot of neon. You were gonna see a lot of glitter, diamonds, all of that, like a unicorn threw up. And a lot of this would be incorporated in not only their looks, but their album covers and other promotional deals. Another thing that was really unique about them was their hairstyles. Whether it was wigs, braids, or anything else in between, the girls often gave this appearance of like a doll baby that you would play with growing up. They also would experiment with a lot of different hair accessories, very loud and bold colors and patterns. Some of it was very cartoonish, you know? And the most notable and popular thing about the trap girls was the fact that even with all of this girly glitter and the unicorns and the cartoonish things, these girls also often played with guns. So yeah, that was a big attention grabber for a lot of people, because going back to what I said earlier about the 90s and the 2000s when it came to female rappers and rap music in general, right? Women are supposed to be soft and sexy and innocent somehow, all wrapped into one. And these girls gave punk rock, girly, princess doll babies with a Glock. Yeah. Sometimes their lyrics would reference their sexuality or present them in a sexual manner, but it was always blended in with, the other rough and raunchy stuff. But that, to a lot of people, was just them playing a role. Like, if you only listen to the music, you would just think, okay, well, this is the wave of music now. This is what's popular now, so of course they're gonna lean into it. But then you would click on the music video. And you would see these girls dressed up as baby dolls, Barbie dolls, and anime characters, towing Dracos and AK-47s. The world had never seen a girl with barrettes and balls in her hair, with glitter on her eyes and body, aiming a gun at the camera and talking about gang ties and drug distribution. That wasn't something people were doing at the time. Another thing about the trap girl era is that it was kind of relatable. So again, like I said previously, a lot of times people do not associate the women that grew up in the projects, the women that grew up during these hard times. They centered that type of lifestyle around a lot of men. So the genres themselves would become very male dominated and male affiliated. Men were not always the only people that were trapping, and then the women tend to trap in different ways. Some of them used to be boosters. Some of them used to steal and just sell them in mass. Some women did grow up in gangs and around a lot of gang members, so they had some gang ties too. They had to survive just like their male counterparts had to survive. But again, it was so taboo to talk about. It was something that people just never really preferred for female rappers specifically to do. And with the help of people like Nicki Minaj, she did break down the door for a lot of other female rappers to be taken seriously and for other female rappers to essentially become who they are. But Nicki also set the tone for pretty girl rap. Might have some gangsta stuff here and there, but overall, you're supposed to be pretty. You're supposed to rap about your body. You're supposed to rap about your sexuality. You're supposed to rap about hair, lip gloss, makeup, spending XYZ amount of money on hair. You're supposed to do things like that. So during that time, there were a lot of female rappers that were aspiring that, fell suit. They did the same thing. They highlighted their curves and their hair and their nails and all their other cosmetics. But once the trap girls came around, the trap girls didn't care. They didn't care. If you found it unladylike, you just found it unladylike. Oh well. They didn't feel like that made them less of a lady. They still did what they wanted to do. And even outside of the music, even in some of the interviews, they would be completely open and honest about their experiences growing up with absolutely no shame.
About you, I noticed you have guns in your videos.
Yeah.
When I post you on my blog, I don't know if you pay attention, I get a lot of flack for promoting that. A lot of people saying, Sean, say cheese, why y'all posting that shit? She wouldn't do it. She not about it. Da 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 da. Speak on the whole gun, situation. What made you pick up a gun and do it in your video and stuff like that?
Because I can. Okay. Who the fuck gonna take it from me?
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, but do you see the flack that you get from people? Like a lot of people give you a hard time because of that.
Yeah.
Why do you feel like you get so much flack for having guns? Like,
cause I'm a girl.
So
you see when you post videos of other niggas, they be like, bro, that shit's so hard. Oh my god. Soon as you see any bitch do that, like, what the fuck is she doing? Why is she even holding up that? It's not even how you shoot the gun. Like, bruh.
It's just like these niggas think they could play me or something because I'm a female. You feel me? Like they feel like they could get over, or I'm supposed to rap about a certain thing. Like I ain't living the life they living too. You know what I'm saying? Like they try to put restrictions on me or something. Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
Shit, I don't give a fuck. I keep it solid in my rap. I'm real rap. Like, that's my genre of rap, as you put it. I keep it real rap. It's like, you don't feel what I'm saying or you think I'm coming off a certain way, you don't gotta fuck with my movement. That's how I look at it. I feel like I don't need niggas to put myself up there. You know what I'm saying? I'm a real underdog with this shit. For surely.
And this was something that a lot of girls admired because during this time, Chicago drill music and Detroit drill music was becoming really, really popular alongside of the new wave of trap. So we had people like Chief Keef, G Herbo, Lil Durk, Lil Bitty, and plenty more other male artists that were coming out of Chicago. We had Sada Baby and T Grizzly, who essentially were like the front runners for Detroit music. So when it came to the women, rappers like Katie Got Bands would go on a hiatus and eventually end up in jail. G Gotti would end up in jail for allegedly attempted murder. We're not gonna talk about that. And artists like Shady and Sasha Gohard just seemed to kind of take a break in total and just never came back. And as for the Detroit side, Cash Doll was tied up in a really weird record label deal. So that really affected the production and the exposure of her music at the time. And then there was Rocky B, and to this day, I still don't understand why Rocky B didn't become more popular, but it seemed like Rocky couldn't really leave the state of Michigan for some odd reason. I'm not sure what the backstory is to that. But yeah, Rocky B was a female rapper from Detroit who also kind of had a struggle with getting her music out there. I don't know why that is. I'll look into that, but it's been years. I still don't know why that is. But yeah, overall, there were a lot of options essentially, but it seemed as though it was always an obstacle or something standing in the way of the others that came before them. But this wave, this collection of trap girls, yeah, they didn't care. They didn't care. They were putting their foots down, and what were you gonna do? Nothing. What also made these girls essentially relatable was the fact that they were from all over the US. So I'm gonna give you just a little teeny weeny bit more of history behind trap music. So trap music originated and was very popular in Atlanta, Georgia. And that's why back in the 2000s, it was such a specific sound and a specific flow that you would hear. Even down to the lyrics, it would be like really specific references that only applied to the city of Atlanta. So of course you didn't have to be from Atlanta in order to enjoy the music, but you were pretty much going to be out of the loop if you weren't from Atlanta. You get it? So what made the trap girls relatable and made them a little bit more marketable was the fact that even though yes, the sounds essentially were like similar, they were enough to fit into the category of what trap music was, they all had their own sauce, their own flavor, their own swag to every single thing that they did. Nobody sounded exactly like the other person. They just couldn't. So Bally Baby was from the source. She was from Atlanta, Georgia, which is basically part of the reason why it was so easy for her to be able to produce it. But then you had people like Asian Doll and Cuban Doll from Dallas, Texas that would keep some of that Dirty South style in some of their new music. Stunna Girl is from Sacramento, California, and she kept a lot of the classic California sound in a lot of her music as well. Bang 3 is from Columbus, Ohio, and honestly I can't really tell you much about Columbus despite the fact that it is in Ohio and I live in Ohio, but I don't know, it's just kind of a free-for-all here. Like I know that Cleveland has a distinct sound, but I can't really tell you much about anybody else. Even my own city, I don't know what they're doing. Child, they doing stuff. I don't know. And with Molly Brazy being from Detroit, you got that classic Detroit drill sound with the pianos in the background. And of course, the list goes on, but we would be here all day, so let's not do that. So yeah, everybody's on theme, but the references are different across the board. So in a way, this made collabing with each other way easier because it never sounded like a tangled up mess, and it never sounded like everybody's just doing the same exact thing. It was always a nice blend of stuff, you know. It just went together really well. Very much peanut butter and jelly, very much. And the other thing that made the Trap Girls so appealing was also how diverse they were. So let's go back to what I said about their styles and their aesthetics. Yes, those are like the common factors that you would see, but even with those, nobody was necessarily the exact same person. So with Asian Doll, a lot of her style was inspired by different Asian cultures. So you can see a lot of kawaii aesthetics and a lot of Harajuku aesthetics, as well as like Barbie dolls and almost like childhood aesthetics. With Bally Baby, she kind of had like this grunge and like streetwear type of vibe with like a touch of girly girl to it. It's very hard to describe, but it was definitely like, I guess, a zombie unicorn, maybe a zombie unicorn from Atlanta. I don't know how to describe that. It wasn't ugly though, but you know, it was something different. So people like Molly Brazy didn't necessarily go into the whole alternative aesthetics and the platform boots and stuff like that, but even Molly had a way about her where she definitely gave like really rich Barbie doll, but make it Detroit. And that's another thing too. I don't know how to explain Detroit style to y'all. It's I don't know, like when you see it, you know it. You know, so that's what Molly Brazy gave, and it was definitely something that everybody wasn't doing because everybody not from Detroit. And of course, everybody knows Rico Nasty for her punk rock alternative style in general, because she's one of the few that takes it all the way, like all the way to the finish line. Now, funny enough, when she first started out, we did not see it as much. There would just be certain little touches and certain little details, but she wasn't as alternative as we see her today. But she would definitely express herself in her hairstyles as well as how she did her makeup, and then like the little chokers that she would wear. Those were kind of like the dead giveaways, but the Rico that we see today, it took time. But yeah, she's always been here. But even outside of fashion, these girls were breaking a lot of the status quos of what a lot of people thought that female rappers should look and behave like. So Bally Baby is an open bisexual who was at the time in a open relationship with another female rapper known as K Mitch.
So are you gay or are you bisexual?
I got a girlfriend.
Okay, so you're a lesbian. Mm-hmm. Your whole life or
No.
at some point?
No, I mean, actually, I probably was gay since I was a baby. My mom been telling me, she's like, you're gonna be gay, and I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, where are you pulling this from? So I don't know. Maybe I have been, but I know for the most part, I like girls.
Asian Doll was a very skinny, dark-skinned girl, and for some reason that alone was already something that was controversial to a lot of people. Reason being because she was so confident, and despite her being dark-skinned, she didn't have a problem wearing different color hair and, you know, different color aesthetics and just bright colors in general. She was never afraid to stand out. She was never afraid to try new styles, and that ties into a whole conversation essentially about colorism. And even with her body type, she was not afraid to talk about her sexuality or refer to herself in a sexual manner, despite the fact that she didn't naturally have curves like how a lot of people would have preferred their women to look like.
I'm big, but I should be bigger than what I am. People just be hating the fact that I'm just dark skinned and then.
Ooh, I was just about to talk about that shit.
But I'm just dark skinned and I go hard and I'm skinny, so type shit. But that's it.
Do you feel as though because you are dark skinned, you are the underdog? Because you know we live in a society. We live in a society. You know, I got sisters that's dark skinned, so I know the feeling. But do you feel as though you're the underdog?
Yeah, but only because I'm dark skinned. And when I come, one thing about me, I got more confidence than a light skinned bitch. Now, like it's like I ain't cute, I ain't this, I got way more confidence. Like even with that, that's the only reason why.
Bitch light skin, that's it. Not a specifically person, like bitches is light skin. A lot of bitches that rap, a lot of them bitches are light skin. So that's the only reason why. But the whole time.
So literally just Asian Doll being confident with being herself and doing basic things like that really should not be controversial. That gave a lot of dark-skinned girl representation, believe it or not. And even though she would go on to get cosmetic surgeries in the future, she also gave a lot of confidence to the girls that were fairly skinny. And people like Rico Nasty and Bally Baby actually helped a lot of girls, specifically black girls, feel very confident with themselves and how they express themselves in their alternative styles. Some of these girls, they've been that way their whole entire lives, but they never felt comfortable really being loud and proud about it because, you know, being black in America is just an experience, but being a black girl in America is just, woo, you know? So people's love of rock bands and other goth stuff and everything that would be deemed weird or, you know, whitewashed, Bally Baby and Rico Nasty actually helped a lot of these girls feel very comfortable in themselves and expressing that side of them. So with all of this being said, that begs the question, why and how did the trap girl era begin to fade out to where the public just became completely uninterested in the genre? So the trap girl era was between the years 2014 to 2018. It's not like they all disappeared or they all just decided to stop making music. But by the time that we got to 2019, they were not as big of a hot commodity as they were before. And this is due to a few reasons. So first of all, let's talk about their demographic of fans that they were attracting. Believe it or not, a lot of the people that were actually big fans of the trap girls and the trap girl era in general were not girls that could actually relate to half of the content that was being put into these songs. A lot of these people were very much put up suburban kids that knew nothing about gangs and drugs and guns and all that in between. Now, like I said, these girls were relatable, so yes, there were some, they definitely had a decent chunk of their fan base that could relate to those topics. But the people that were really like obsessed with them and buying the tickets and buying albums and streaming mixtapes and all that other stuff, the people that were making the fan pages and all that, they were people that knew nothing. They were people that were very much put up. They were not living that life whatsoever. And this is also something that I've noticed with the male trap rappers as well. A lot of their audience is like suburban white kids and like Hispanic kids. And it's not that no black people listen to them, but when I tell you, you go to a concert, those are the people that you're going to be seeing in that crowd. That's going to be the vast majority of people. It's almost like during this era, the trap aesthetic was just that. It was just an aesthetic. People were not really like understanding that this was people's real lives. Like these were serious topics. These were serious things and dealings, you know? So a lot of the people that were into the trap girls, they seen the trap girl aesthetic as like a fashion choice. They seen the trap girl aesthetic as like a hobby. So if you ever took the time to actually look into it, if you ever do want to look into it, you will notice that during this time, there were a lot of young girls that were lying and saying that they were affiliated with certain gangs or just like straight up creating their own gangs and throwing up different gang signs and wearing different bandanas. And they would be posing with like water guns and stuff like that, basically trying to emulate the trap girl that they were really big fans of. A lot of them did not understand that for certain people, this is real life. This is not a joke. This is not a game. And I don't know if this needs to be said because I thought it was common knowledge until, you know, that era came up. Don't ever claim a gang if you're not with that gang, because if the rival gang thinks that you are a part of that, they're going to do harm to you. They will. That was never something to play with. But again, for a lot of the demographic, this was all a game. This was all a fashion choice. This was all a hobby. This was all for post on Instagram. That was all it was supposed to be. Even down to the fake guns, there were certain people that were literally painting over the toy guns and making them look as real as possible. This can also get you caught up because it is common knowledge that the police often watch social media. If they get a tip that they think that you're a violent criminal, you are now on a watch list. They are now monitoring every single thing that you do, and they are waiting for you to get caught up in something, and they're going to use those things as evidence against you in court. It is not something to play with. It's just not. So that alone started to become a problem because a few people did realize the hard way that, oh, this ain't something you want to play with. Some people did actually get in trouble. Some people did have to deal with the consequences of, you know, false claiming and faking like they was hood. They had to really sit with that. But not only that, within the world of the trap girl era, things started to get a little real and the girls weren't ready. So let's just talk about it. Let's talk about the situation that happened to Rocky B. So Rocky B and Molly Brazy are both female rappers from the city of Detroit. There would come a point in time where people noticed this slight tension or this slight feud between the rapper Rocky B and the rapper Molly Brazy. It wasn't that noticeable, but it was noticeable enough for other people to take notice and for the two to feel like they had to speak on it eventually. So in an interview, Rocky B would actually go on to explain what her issue was with Molly. And to sum it up, she basically says that it was more so the management that was trying to make Molly Brazy essentially another version of Rocky B. Because when Molly Brazy first came out, she referred to herself as Molly B. But Rocky says that there came a point in time where they had a sit-down conversation, and after that, Molly decided that she was going to change her name to Molly Brazy.
Basically, because it's a long story, but I mean, I've been doing music, like I said, for a long time. It's not like I've been trying all my life to get signed or nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I always just did music. Like, I got poems published in books from when I was in middle school, all type of stuff. So, like, I always take it serious. So, when that situation came about, like, they tried to have her step on my toes.
When you say her, who are you talking about?
I'm talking about Molly.
Molly Brazy.
Yeah.
Were you guys friends at one point?
No, I didn't know her. She used to be an Instagram follower. And like,
wait a minute. Okay, so I like when they dispel all the rumors and the myths. So wait, you guys weren't chums, best friends, spending the night with each other, hanging out?
No, we're not even in the same bracket. You know what I'm saying? So it was never none of that. Like, she was following me on Instagram, and I always show people love that show me love.
Right.
So she used to post me, and, you know, like, so I knew who she was.
Right.
She used to say, you know, I was motivation. So when she came about, I was like, oh, okay, that's what's up.
Right.
But, like, they went and tried to make a situation like I was hating on her or something because I said she didn't sound like me. And I was just like, okay, now y'all trying to find any reason to beef with me because you shouldn't get mad if another female say you don't sound like her. Like,
okay, so what was it? Was it a comparison that kept going around, and then you said, well, I understand, you know, y'all may think we sound alike, but in my opinion, we don't.
That's how I started. I feel like you should have made your own name so you can make your own lane. You know what I'm saying? Not get compared to who you used to look up to. That was the only issue, but I let the name thing go.
Right.
They put
so wait a minute, what was the name?
Her name was Molly B at first.
And like Rocky B.
Yeah.
Molly B. Okay. So did you take offense to that?
Yeah, I told her that. I was just like, I don't think you should have did that. You should have just made your own name. But
and do you think that that's where the B came from?
No, that's exactly where it came from. Because when I talked to them about it, that's when Brazy came about.
Oh, and they switched it up.
Yeah.
But did they ever say B stood for something else? Did they ever try to like interject and say no?
No.
Okay.
At first, no. And they just didn't care, you know what I'm saying? But I wasn't tripping about a name thing. It was just more so, now it's kind of like when they mention me, they mentioning you. Yes. You know what I'm saying? For no reason.
Exactly.
Because they really think that we in the same bracket as far as bars or as far as music. They just are named.
And it seemed like everything was cool after that. But then Rocky would end up getting tipped off that Molly's new mixtape, Molly World, was actually going to have a few songs that took jabs at the rapper Rocky B.
Okay, so moving past the name situation. Once that was done and they changed the name, then what happened?
Her manager was like doing
Joseph?
doing behind the scenes stuff.
So Joseph started doing things that your camp didn't like.
Not even just my camp, it was just me as a person. You know what I'm saying? Because like I talked to Molly and I talked to Joseph, and I didn't screenshot nothing, I didn't record nothing, because when you go into a situation doing that, it's kind of like you're not being real.
Yes.
So like I kind of just
it wasn't premeditated for you.
You know what I'm saying? Like I kicked it with Molly, me and Molly, I thought we had an understanding. I kicked it with Joe. Joe said so much little lame stuff. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, well, why is you doing this?
So was it a social media thing that he was doing to you? when he was saying lame stuff, or was it just to you directly?
I mean, like, it was far as, like, how he was pushing her. Like, he kept telling me, like, before the Check the Score came out, he let me know that she was sending shots before it even came out.
That's crazy. So her manager is telling you that, listen, my artist is going to come at you.
Yeah, and he like, I think y'all should do it. Like, I don't see why you should put your hands on her. And I'm just like, well, if we're beefing, why wouldn't I touch her if I seen her? But y'all want me to make songs.
So
this not only caused Rocky to feel like she had to defend herself by releasing her own diss track against Molly, famously known as Vindictive, but this also essentially launched a back and forth on social media between Molly and Rocky for years to come, honestly. So during this time, Molly became really close friends with the rapper Cuban Doll. So since they were so close, Cuban Doll took it upon herself to defend her friend Molly. So there were a few cases where when Rocky would leave a comment or leave a shady post, Cuban would come to the defense of Molly and give her 2 cents. And this would cause these two to go back and forth as well, and from that moment on, Rocky and Cuban pretty much had beef. So at the top of 2018, Cuban happened to be in the city of Detroit to record a bunch of music as well as shoot a few music videos with some other artists as well as Asian Doll, because this was also during the time where her and Asian Doll decided to come together and try to make projects together. Rocky would get word that Cuban was in the city, and she and a few of her friends pulled up to the studio to fight Cuban Doll.
Get her fucking hand! Cuban Doll got her ass beat. We'll talk this shit. That bitch Honey was like, hold on, she back the fuck up. She back the fuck up. Like, what is
Now look, watch some kind of way they gonna make me the bad guy for putting my hands on this little bitch.
We don't give a fuck.
Watch.
Guess what?
Watch.
That bitch talk crazy.
Watch, they gonna make me the bad guy for putting my hands on this bitch. But let me tell y'all something. Let me tell you something. That's beside the point. Listen, my nigga. And she play it like I'm hating on her or I'm just a nobody ass bitch. So I still play that shit cool. Bitches keep dropping songs. Bitches saying shit on the internet. Your fan base bigger than mine, my baby. So of course you win by default, bitch. But listen, when you popping off and I've been in your city and I'm coming in and and then you posting your location, my nigga.
That's where you fucked up, like we ain't been around this bitch.
Now, Cuban Doll still attests to this day that Rocky and her friends jumped her, but a lot of people that were there, including Asian Doll, say that there was no jumping involved. It was a one-on-one fight between Rocky and Cuban. But either way, a fight was had, and this would also lead Rocky within that same night to write a diss song, record it, as well as record a music video and post it online. And for the rest of that year, her and Cuban basically had a constant back and forth on Instagram. So then there would come a point in time where Cuban and a rapper named Sukiana, as well as Cold Killer from Bang 3 and Stunna Girl, happened to all be at Rollin' Loud. Now apparently there was a lingering issue between Stunna Girl and another female rapper named Little Kayla. So once Stunna Girl seen Lil Kayla, they basically got into a fight backstage, and apparently Sukiana and Cold Killer attempted to jump into the fight as well, but they got tackled by security. Now because Cuban Doll was essentially the big artist at this time, even though she wasn't in the fight, and the video shows it, as well as Little Kayla and her friends have also attested that Cuban Doll did not touch that girl. She was not in the fight whatsoever. A lot of media outlets decided to run with the story that Cuban, Cold Killer, Stunna Girl, and Sukiana jumped Little Kayla. And eventually Rocky B would catch wind of this and decide to give her own 2 cents on the situation. So in the process of her throwing shots at Cuban, she ends up slipping up and saying something that kind of sort of references the whole group, and she then proceeds to call them the Powerpuff Girls.
Y'all bitches, y'all getting so much money and still don't even know how to dress. Y'all don't even know how to put on clothes to go perform for real. Y'all performance was trash as fuck. Y'all weak ass Powerpuff Girls from the hood looking ass bitches. Y'all bitches is nasty. Don't try that shit over here and don't look that way over here, cause guess what, my nigga, y'all already know how Rocky get the fuck down, period. And let me tell y'all something, one of them little motherfucking Powerpuff Girls, bitch, was dodging to meet me, my nigga. Let's not play like...
But keep in mind, her issue is supposed to be with Cuban, right? That's who she was really taking shots at, and that's who she was aiming at. But because she put them all together, Stunna Girl took that as Rocky B referencing her and calling her out of her name. So this was completely unbeknownst to Rocky. Rocky B and Stunna Girl have never exchanged words. They have never met each other. They had nothing to do with each other. So Rocky had no idea that Stunna Girl took offense to this, as well as the fact that Stunna Girl never really said anything when it happened. But little did anyone know that this was really the turning point where everything would essentially go up in flames. So trigger warning, just in case people need it, I will be mentioning physical harm, I will be mentioning kidnapping, and I will be showing a few photos. Obviously I'm not going to make it too graphic. I'm going to try to blur everything out, but there will be insinuations and implications, so just fair warning. So allegedly, Stunna Girl and whoever people she was with, so they built this fake event. I'm assuming there was probably a flyer involved, and they shot an email to the person who was managing Rocky B at that time, and they were basically inquiring if Rocky would come and perform at this fake event. So Rocky's management would go on to accept the offer, and they would go to Los Angeles. But as soon as they landed in Los Angeles, Rocky B and her management would get kidnapped and taken to a warehouse. At this warehouse, there would be Stunna Girl, Cuban Doll, and a few other men that personally knew Stunna Girl. And all of these people would go on to jump Rocky and her management. So according to Rocky, there would come a point in time where Rocky was just tired of fighting. She had been fighting for a while. She was getting hit from all angles, and there was a dog cage nearby, and she crawled inside of the dog cage to take a break from fighting and get away from being abused. And this is when one of the aggressors would go on to take pictures of Rocky laying in said dog cage. And eventually the beatings would stop, and somehow Rocky and her management were able to escape the warehouse. So they would go on to ask for help, end up in the hospital, and this is when the doctors would let Rocky B know that due to the fight, the beating, she had severe internal bleeding. So due to this, Rocky had to get emergency surgery, which caused them to have to cut her stomach open and operate on her. So if you see Rocky B in present day, you will notice that she has a very long scar going from the top of her abdomen all the way past her belly button. Now, it has been said by a lot of people that this situation alone essentially killed the Trap Girl era. Reason being is because clearly the situation just got completely out of hand. Fans were okay with the back and forth online. It was funny, it was comedy, it was entertaining. The diss tracks where you're essentially threatening somebody, okay, it's a part of the game. You know, again, a lot of people, they seen this as a game. They seen it as a hobby, as an aesthetic. Nobody really thought that anybody would actually live up to some of the things that they were rapping about, right? So an occasional fight here and there, oh, okay, cool. Like, you know, whatever. But kidnapping, holding someone hostage, beating them to the point where they have to get emergency surgery. Like, seeing the pictures in real time, it was definitely bad. It was definitely bad. It was definitely brutal. Seeing that play out the way that it played out, it definitely, I could understand certain people getting spooked. I definitely could understand that. So yeah, like I said, for a lot of people, this was just supposed to be fun. This wasn't supposed to get this serious. So the fact that it got that serious, it made a lot of people reconsider supporting the Trap Girls and a lot of the things that they were promoting in their music. People did not want to glorify this, and a lot of people started to distance themselves from supporting Cuban Doll as well as Stunna Girl, not only for the situation at hand, but also for the fact that they essentially went on the internet and gloat and bragged about the situation, and, you know, started showing off the chain that they snatched off her neck allegedly.
It's like your chain, bitches hanging here. Huh?
It was a whole thing. So yeah, it made people really reconsider who they were supporting, what they were supporting, and a lot of people began to back away from supporting and condoning the Trap Girl era and the Trap Girl aesthetic as a whole. Yeah, so that's that on that. But the second reason is also the beefs themselves. So yeah, again, the beef, it was funny, it was fun, the occasional fight here and there, the back and forths on the internet, okay, cute, you know, something to keep people entertained. But it got to a point to where the fans were just starting to get enough of it, because now it was becoming like common for shows to get delayed or even fully canceled because the trap girls would be beefing backstage. It was just certain people, you couldn't put them on the same promo flyer. You couldn't have them at the same event because it was a guarantee that they were going to end up fighting or shooting at each other.
No, wait till you perform. Wait till you perform. Bitch, you know what? Bitch, you on this fucking book. Fucking ass bitch.
But she didn't swing on nobody. All those people that was with me, she didn't swing on not one person. Suki was talking to her crazy. She didn't swing. So as long as you didn't swing, and she spit, but she missed. Like the crack in the door, she hit the whole floor. So nobody got spit on. Like, period. And she was like with a whole bunch of niggas. I'm with all bitches. So it's like, what the niggas is gonna do.
She had already been, when she seen me and Asian Doll fucking with it, the bitch already trying like, she trying to like go link up with Stunner Girl. That ain't genuine. You don't like her, you ain't never played the bitch been out, you feel me, we been funkin'. Everything Asian Doll do, bitch, you're weird, bitch. She don't want to be your friend, bitch. You a weirdo, bitch. Nobody fucks with you, bitch. So bootsy ass. Anyway, I didn't really want to funk with her. I didn't, you know, like, it wasn't, this is hella weird shit. Anyway, I see the bitch, and I check that bitch, nigga. I'm like, what you hollering, nigga? I'm from California, nigga. I'm from Sacramento, what? Nigga, you out here in my state, nigga. This what pops off out here, bitch. Real activities, nigga. You feel me? I ain't no shade to no other states, but we ain't with the rap cap. Biggie and Tupac, nigga. Tupac is from out here.
Facts.
Facts. What? Nigga, we don't rap cap, nigga. What?
And there would even be times where these things are happening on stage. Like these things are happening on stage in front of everybody while they're supposed to be performing. So people were getting tired of it because they were spending large amounts of money to come and see their favorite rapper, to get VIP tickets, to have meet and greets and everything. And the way that all of that money would just go down the drain, and 9 times out of 10 they weren't getting refunds for it. So they just had to miss out after everything because 2 grown women can't get along with each other. It was starting to become a little agitating. And the beefs actually affected a lot of their music as well. So I touched on this when I made the video about what happened to Barbie Doll Gang. That video is a part of my What Happened To series where I cover a lot of things from the 2010s pop culture that just kind of faded into existence. And one of the things that I addressed in that video, it mainly pertained to Asian Doll, but I feel like it's been a lot of people that have done it. There will be a lot of times where like 2 or more of the trap girls would work together on a project, and eventually those girls maybe later down the line would get into it with each other, beef with each other, whatever you want to call it. And depending on who owns like the primary rights to the song or the rights to the project, they would actually just completely delete the project. So it didn't matter that it was already up on SoundCloud or that it was up on YouTube and it got like 2 million streams or whatnot. These girls were so good for deleting songs, deleting music videos, and withholding whole entire projects, because if they were feuding with the other girl in question, they quote unquote didn't want to give anybody free clout. They just didn't want to give anybody free clout. They didn't want anybody making a name off of their name. So it was just too many times where they would just delete everything. So again, I already did a video on what happened to Barbie Doll Gang, and I highlighted that Asian Doll was very good for doing this. So Asian Doll originally had a song with Molly Brazy called On a Mission, and it was supposed to have a music video behind it. They were teasing it for a really long time. Honey, it's 2025. We not seeing that music video. It's not coming out. It's not coming out no time soon. None whatsoever.
Now, I know you hate when I name drop in your interviews because you don't like, you know, giving anybody else clout, but I'm always, regardless, I'm always ask what the streets want me to ask. And, you know, you did do a record with Molly Brazy, and I don't know if y'all shot a video or not, but nothing really came out after that. What's the status with the Molly, what's your relationship with Molly Brazy, and what happened to that? Because we see the Cuban Doll and Molly Brazy records, we see that, but what happened to y'all record?
I'm the Asian Doll.
But I mean, we know the differences with you and Kevin Doll have and shit like that, but it seemed like you and Molly Brazy, it was never really nothing that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't feel like it's really, it never was nothing, so I don't feel like it's nothing to even just, it's nothing to be mad. It's like, I don't know. It's nothing.
Yeah. So it's just nothing to talk about?
Yeah, it's nothing to talk about. It's just like nothing. Like.
But so the record is never gonna come out?
Where is them bitches? I don't even know where them bitches at.
Asian Doll did a song with Rico Nasty called Amigos, which I remember when that first came out. I loved that song down. Honey, it is only available on YouTube. We're not getting that song back either. You can't stream it nowhere else. I don't even think anybody's getting paid off of that. That's how bad it was. They scrubbed that. We're not hearing that again.
Just beat this bitch Rico up. Fuck you talking about, bitch? Beat the fuck out of this bitch Rico. Bro, this hoe cannot fight. Beat the shit out of.
During the time that Asian Doll and Cuban Doll fell out, Asian Doll even released a diss track, and I think that diss track was up for like a day. I don't even think it made it a whole entire week. It was up for like a day, probably a few hours, and then she went on to delete that as well. But then during the time that her and Cuban got back cool, they were supposed to be doing a music video with YBN Namir and another artist that I forgot. What is that boy name? I forget. But they were supposed to be doing a music video for a song that they recorded with YBN Namir, and yeah, we're not gonna see that either. We got little screenshots and little teasers, but we're not gonna see that. That's completely gone. And even with Bally Baby and Rico Nasty, I'm pretty sure they had a whole project planned. But I remember there was a point in time they were teasing a collab song together that had a music video that was supposed to premiere. We still ain't seen that either. I found a little clip on Twitter, but that's pretty much it. We're never gonna see that. And then back when Cuban Doll and Molly were really close with each other, they were supposed to be releasing a whole mixtape named Brazy Babies. And again, I don't think we're gonna see that anytime soon either, because that was supposed to be done recording like before 2018, I think. So yeah, we're not gonna see that, despite the fact that they back cool again, because that was a very quick little time that they was beefing with each other. But yeah, even then, are we gonna see any of these projects? 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. We don't see any of this. We have completely scrapped these things that really would have been big money for all of them. But yeah, you can't tell these girls what to do, so yeah. So again, fans were starting to get tired of it because they would get attached to songs and look forward to certain collabs and music videos, and the next thing you know, it's just non-existent. It's almost like a fever dream, almost like a Mandela effect. Like it was here 1 minute and the next thing you know, it's just not. And lastly, another issue that essentially led to the downfall of the trap girl era. I know I'm gonna shake the table with this one. I'm fully prepared for it, but listen, I didn't do it. Let me just say that I didn't do it. But the last thing that left a bad taste in people's mouths when it came to the trap girl era was that as time went on, people would start to catch a lot of these trap girls in big major lies. Now, we just had a conversation about how a lot of their fans were not really, you know, on the same type of timing or the same type of demographic as the trap girls that they were fans of, right? Despite the fact that a lot of these kids did not live that life, a lot of them did study the lifestyle and the culture that came with the life, because they wanted to emulate this as close as possible, right? So they knew a thing or two. They just didn't know everything. They just never had their own personal experiences in said situation. So again, this was almost like a game to them. They were big fans of this fantasy world of trapping, right? Let's just put it like that, right? So there are certain rules, certain codes, certain levels of logic that apply to this particular lifestyle, correct? So as time would go on, people started to notice that sometimes the trap girls would say certain things or do certain things that did not match up with these codes that applied to them. So if it wasn't clear, Bally Baby was known to belong to the Blood Gang. She often talks about it, wears red, and uses a lot of their lingo. But there would come a point in time where she actually tried to correct someone about her affiliation. Now, I don't have the original post. The original post was a comment on the Shade Room Teens with like a fan or something. So unfortunately, I don't have that. But I do have a tweet where she doubled down on her statement. So this is what she said. She said, "She is not a blood. She is actually Pyru." Now, the reason why this left people stunned and confused is because Pyru is a subset of the Blood gang. So it's basically literally the same thing. What she's repping in layman's terms, the best way I can explain it, she is basically repping the region of blood that she belongs to. So to make it as simple as possible, think the restaurant Checkers and Rallies. It's the same exact restaurant and it's the same exact franchise. It's just called something different due to the region that it belongs to. You get what I'm saying? So that's pretty much what was going on. But that also becomes questionable too, because Pyrus are from Los Angeles, California. Bally and her family are Atlanta natives.
So you could be blood, but not Pyro?
Well, Pyro is part of the blood family.
Yeah.
But bloods ain't.
You got
ain't
Grims and you
Pyros.
got Damus too.
You know what I'm saying?
So what's the difference?
A Pyro is something that originated from Compton.
So this left a lot of people side-eyeing Bally Baby because not only was she a proud blood throughout her career, but she also was very vocal about how she didn't like people who lied about being in gangs to fit in. So how is someone like Bally Baby getting confused by this? So, Asian Doll and Cuban Doll. They are a beef for the books. Because a lot of people don't know that Asian Doll and Cuban Doll essentially came into the industry together. They used to be really close friends. There was even plenty of times where they lived together. But in the public eye, they have fallen out a lot. They constantly are breaking up and making up and breaking up and making up. It just goes on and on and on. So back when they were like really, really close friends, like kind of before the fame, but a little bit in the beginning stages of the fame, Asian Doll has attested that she was a part of the gang called Crips, right? And before Cuban Doll took the stage name of Cuban Doll, she was often referred to as Taylor Blood.
People from my city know me as Taylor Blood, like, you feel me? They be like, oh, that's Taylor.
So this was a play on the fact that her legal name was Taylor and the fact that she allegedly was affiliated with the gang Blood. And apparently, despite the fact that both of these girls are from rival gangs, they were besties and they were living together. People already found that strange. People already thought, okay, it's something off about that. But what made people even more thrown off by this whole situation is the fact that when you look back at old photos and even certain music videos, you could see that Cuban would often throw up C's despite the fact that she's a blood. And there was even a few times where Asian Doll was throwing up B's even though she's a Crip. But not only that, if Asian Doll is friends with Cuban, who is supposed to be a blood, why are there so many songs where she's actually throwing disses at Blood?
I'm a Barbie bitch. I'm my niggas Crips. We don't fuck with blood. Shoot your hoe ass in your lip. Yeah.
In one interview, Asian Doll mentioned that the reason why she was doing that was because her management at the time was a blood. But it's like, what about your friend? So was that a diss towards her or? Okay, all right. And even in present day, it seems like Asian Doll kind of like just throws up a lot of signs from different gang affiliations. So people are often confused about who she is supposed to belong to, but as Asian Doll explains it, she gang for real. So it ain't for us to understand. So and you know what? I'm a civilian. I don't understand. So I'm gonna leave that there. But yeah, and another thing that was so weird too is that when Asian Doll and Cuban Doll did eventually fall out with each other, the millions of times that they fell out with each other, Asian always goes on to say that Cuban was never a real blood.
For my mom, this bitch stayed in my household, so this hoe know how we square business. My mama real OG Crip, don't give a fuck how old you is, will slap the shit out of you if you with any blood shit. Yeah, bitch, you couldn't even say blood, you was damn near a Crip. Yeah, stop playing. You can't say no blood. Now hoes wanna rap it out. My brother, he ain't rocking with no Crips. I said that. Why are you saying the same thing I said but switching it up?
So everybody's confused. Everybody's confused. Nobody knows what's going on. So in the grand scheme of things, nobody really knows the truth, but the whole situation is just very suspect and very weird. And this same kind of phenomenon happened with the group Bang 3 as well. So here's the deal with Bang 3. The original members were Cold Killer, Bando, and a girl named Armani. When they first came out, they displayed Bando wearing red to represent her as a blood, Cold Killer as a Crip wearing blue, and Armani was just an individual as herself. There would come a point in time where Armani would leave the group and would be replaced with a girl named Goldie. They kept this same theme of Cold Killer being a Crip, Bando being a blood, and the third member just being blonde in some way. But then there would come a point in time where all three members sat down with DJ Small Eyes separately, and when asked about the gang culture in Columbus, Ohio, they all agreed that there really wasn't much of a gang culture.
How big was gang activity in your city back then?
To me, it wasn't really big. Like, it wasn't big at all.
Never joined one?
No.
Now, for you, just curious, how big was gang activity in your city when you were growing up?
It was big. Like, we ain't really do the Crip and Blood shit like that. We ain't really get into all that deep. Like, when I came here, they was really on that. There, like, they make like, if your nigga die, your homie die, they gonna make a gang out of him. And you go hard for that like it's a hood or something. Like, so that's how we really do it. I mean, you got your hoods and stuff, but just really your little cliques that you go hard for.
I know you said you weren't interested in gang banging, but how big was gang activity in your city back then?
Back then, I never really felt like Columbus was on some beefing with Blood and Crip shit. Like, it was never that, like, Bloods and hang out with Crips type shit. It was more so, like, cliques, gangs, like, we ain't bang over colors type shit. It was more so where you was from, what hood you was from, who was beefing type shit. It was never over colors. Like Bloods and Crips would be cool with each other type shit. Like, that's not nothing.
So DJ Small Eyes goes on to ask Cold Killer about her name, where she discloses that she puts K's in her name because it's cool, despite the fact that she was a Crip.
And why do you spell it with a K?
It just looked better that way. And I be talking about I'm a Crip, so people be like, why you got C's? But it just looked cute with the K's, you know?
Are you a Crip member?
I am. I'm a Crip. But I told you I try to be on my grown shit, so I don't be on that gangbang shit, but I am a Crip, yes.
Is there any flack that you get for that because you spell it with the K instead of C?
Yeah, they be like, how you a Crip and you got K's, not C's? I just be like, because I just do what I want type shit. It just look better.
Then, in Bando's interview, he asked about the red bandana that he noticed on her backpack and asked if she was a blood. She responds that she's not, but if she was to gangbang, she would be a blood.
And when I mentioned the red bandana that you had tied on the backpack, you said if you were to gangbang...
If I was the gangman, I'd be a blood.
Why?
I like bloods. My favorite color red. So I'm a blood. But I don't gangbang. That ain't me.
Could that get you into trouble?
No. Get me in trouble with who?
Maybe somebody pressing you on the color there?
No. I can't do that, especially if I don't gangbang. I just like the color. Shit beastie. But I'm still a blood. But I don't gangbang. It sounds fried, but that's what it is. That's that with me.
And to add on more confusion, Cold Killer discloses that she was actually in multiple gangs as a child before she settled on becoming a Crip.
Like, I was really a little ratchet bitch. Like, I'm the type of bitch, like me and my bitches, like we had groups, we was in gangs. The first one I was in was called TBG, and it was called Throw It Back Girls. We used to go to the skating rink every Saturday. We'd go to Aeropostale, we'd steal outfits, match outfits. We'd go to Kohl's, steal Levi's and Chucks, and we go there and we twerk, and then we fight after, like every time we fight. So I was in that gang, and then I was also in a gang called Team Salute, and that's where we would go to the mall and we would just beat bitches up. Like, I fought a lot in my life. Like I'll fight 3 bitches one day, like line them up, boom, 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 line them up. I even fought in a motherfucking church sanctuary.
You said it was 3 gangs you were in or 2?
I was in 2.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a couple more, but that wasn't like serious. I was in something else called LHHMS. It's called Lady Hard Hitter Head Hunter Certified Baddie.
So yeah, the big fans of Bang 3 definitely started to side-eye the group and started to ask a few more questions. And they didn't really take a hit to their careers, but those are things that people always quote to this day. Another common thing too is the fact that it has been reported a few times with various different trap girls that a lot of them are faking the guns that they use in their videos, or whether they are prop guns or whether they are borrowing the guns from other people just so they can shoot the music videos, but they don't actually own the guns themselves.
First of all, they're props anyways, but still, like, I don't know.
Now, why all of a sudden you start putting that as a prop before the video? Because you wasn't doing that at the beginning. Like, if somebody watching you?
Because, I don't know who is watching, so I need to clear it up because I do hang around people that got like warrants, you know, other shit going on with the law. I don't ever want to get them in no type of trouble, so I just make it clear that it's all props in the video.
Yeah.
And that was something that was speculated, like, from the moment that these girls became popular. Like, people were always making assumptions that none of this was real and they were just trying to fit in with the guys. And going back to Cuban, there would come a point in time shortly after the Rocky B situation where Cuban Doll and Stunna Girl would actually start beefing with each other. And apparently Stunna Girl broke into Cuban's house while she was asleep and fought her. Again, everything is alleged. I wasn't there, I don't know. But yeah, apparently her and Stunna Girl, they was getting into it real bad, and Stunna Girl basically attests to the fact that Cuban called the police on her. And again, these little codes that these people are supposed to live by, that's a big no-no. You don't do things like that. So Stunna Girl eventually caught her on camera admitting that she was going to call the police instead of coming outside to come and fight Stunna Girl.
Calling police, Cuban.
Yeah.
Wait, calling
But
police.
you want to say
I got you on camera saying you called the police.
And I will call them again. Come to my house.
You said you'll call them again.
Come to my house. I'm gonna call them every time because guess what? When I shoot at you hoes, guess what? Y'all hoes.
Did you shoot?
That was your best bet.
Okay,
I was
come
just
over
in your
here.
house.
Y'all didn't do no
I was
damage.
just in
Y'all
your
didn't
house
take
last
nothing.
night. Did
Y'all
you
didn't-
shoot?
Y'all didn't take nothing from me.
Did you shoot? That wasn't the
Bitch,
mission.
I read-
Y'all didn't take nothing.
I could have. That wasn't the
You want
point,
some dry
bitch.
shit.
I didn't want to
You
strip
want some
your
dry
snitch
shit,
ass
like,
because
you
I know
know
you'll
what?
tell, bitch.
Broke your phone.
I know that you'll tell, bitch.
For real.
You think I'll take your shit so you can
You're
go tell on me?
broke.
Bitch.
Listen, let me tell you.
Let me tell you that, bitch. You're broke, bitch. Your card declines every time, bitch. You live like a basic ass bitch. You have a deal, bitch.
And lastly, there is the infamous clip of Molly Brazy on a Say Cheese interview. The interviewer is asking Molly Brazy a lot about, you know, her lifestyle, how she grew up and stuff. And there gets to a point to where they have a discussion about guns and using guns. The interviewer goes on to ask Molly if she had ever used a gun before. And Molly goes on to bring up the fact that she has shot a Draco before. And the Draco, when she shot it, didn't have a kick to it.
Do you know how to bust a gun?
Yeah. Yes.
Have you
First,
busted one before?
yes. I shot a Draco before. That bitch don't have no kick on it.
So if somebody tried you and you had it on you, you shoot?
I would shoot that bitch, yes.
So a lot of people were thrown off by this because apparently it is common knowledge that regardless of how big and how strong you are, Dracos have a kick to it. They have a kickback. So her saying that made a lot of people side-eye her and ask a lot of questions about if this girl really lives what she raps about. And it was the fact that Molly is fairly small. Like, she is a very small person. So the idea that for her, it wouldn't have a kick to it, but to the burliest man, it still would have a kick to it, it definitely had people like, what is she talking about? Ultimately, the alleged false claiming and the faking of the lifestyle definitely left a bad taste in people's mouths. Number one, because the illusion was now broken. These people felt like they could not support these girls anymore because everything about them was essentially false and fugazi. Number two, dare I say it, it is also an ego thing. A lot of people for a really long time were defending these girls and saying that they were harder, tougher, and more real than their male counterparts. So once some of these things started to come to light and people started putting little puzzle pieces together, they started to realize that like, oh, this is embarrassing. This is not what we thought it was. So even as it pertained to their male counterparts, trap music as a whole was starting to die down in popularity. The new wave of trap created what is called a clout rapper, and that is essentially a rapper that is willing to do anything and everything to get attention. That goes for pranks, that goes for being offensive, that goes for being politically incorrect on purpose, and this was just something that a lot of people just did not care for. The older people got, the more they started to lean into their values, and seeing that a lot of these artists that were making this music did not fit their values, it made a lot of people start to fall back from it. Also, since it was now so much easier to be an independent artist, this led to somewhat of an influx of industry plants. Now it was like nobody was unique, nobody was their own person, everybody was a carbon copy of somebody else. From the sound to their appearance, it just seemed like as time went on, you were just getting a repackaged person over and over and over and over again. And then let's even talk about the career aspect. World Star Hip Hop became somewhat of an epicenter for the new trap wave that everybody was so hype about. It was a guarantee that if you had your video posted on World Star, you were making it big and you were at least gonna get 1 million views. But by 2020 to roughly 2021, people started to see the views in World Star Hip Hop significantly go down. Now, if you were to post your music video on the site, it would barely get 200K. And lastly, let's just address the elephant in the room. A lot of these artists were on drugs. Again, the new trap wave was about taking the drugs and the effects that would come with them. A lot of people were beginning to have severe addictions that just did not pan out well, and some even had overdoses. So now we were getting to a point to where the glorification of taking substances, it just wasn't fun anymore. So again, and I know I sound like a broken record, but the trap aesthetic as a whole was really an aesthetic and nothing more for a lot of people. Now we getting into it and we're seeing the effects of some of the things that are being talked about. A lot of people didn't like it anymore. So by 2020, especially after the passing of Juice WRLD, the new trap era was now coming to an end. And yes, most of these artists, male and female, they still make music to this day and it can still be classified as trap music, but the popularity of the wave as a whole is completely done. However, the influence that the trap wave left behind will forever and always be remembered, and we still see remnants of it today. And as for the trap girl era, it will always be iconic and it will always be remembered because despite all the turmoil, all the controversies, and all the drama, these girls knocked down the door for so many other girls to come in after them, and they haven't stopped since. So what will be the next wave of female rappers? We just have to wait and see. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is an analysis on the trap girl era. I'm experimenting with something new, so please let me know if you like this video, not only by liking the video, but also commenting. It's kind of sort of like the What Happened To series, but definitely completely different. It's more of like just a summary and a synopsis of certain things, but yeah, let me know if you like it, and I will definitely make more because I do have a few little ideas up my sleeve. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, and of course, share if you can. So with that being said, I thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time.
Back up on my bullshit, back up on the scene.